Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today. I'm putting on my sports physical therapist hat for this one because we are going to dive straight into the absolute clinical truth about core stability. We see it literally all the time in the clinic. People coming in with that nagging, persistent back pain, feeling like their body is completely failing them even though they work out all the time. Well, today we're stripping away all those flashy fitness industry myths. We are going to look at the actual biomechanics of what truly keeps your spine safe, stable, and strong.
Okay, let's dive into today's rehab protocol. We'll be running through the assessment for diagnosing instability, jumping into an anatomy lesson on true core strength, going over the prescription with the McGill Big 3, laying out your weekly rehab schedule, talking about future-proofing through progression, and finally, getting you to your discharge and next steps.
So, have you ever been just walking along, maybe stepped off a curb and felt your knees suddenly just give way? Or maybe you were just reaching down to pick up a dropped pen, or simply stood up after sitting at your desk too long, and your lower back completely seized up on you. It feels like this sudden catastrophic failure, right? But clinical biomechanics studies, like the ones published in the European Spine Journal, show us that this isn't a sudden failure at all, not even close. It's actually the end result of a system that has slowly lost its structural support over time.
To really understand why this happens, consider the number 88 newtons. That translates to roughly 20 pounds. Biomechanical analyses demonstrate that the human spine, if we're just talking about the bones and ligaments without any active muscular support, will physically buckle under just 20 pounds of compressive load. Think about that, 20 pounds. Your spine is incredibly fragile on its own. To survive everyday normal activities, it relies entirely on the precise real-time coordination of the surrounding muscles. When that muscular coordination fails, your spine is literally left defenseless.
Well, a massive reason this coordination fails comes down to something called proprioception. Basically, this is your body's internal GPS. It's your brain's ability to seamlessly sense exactly where your joints are in space. But when you have a past injury, or maybe just a prolonged sedentary lifestyle or hidden inflammation, the sensory receptors in your joints actually get damaged. Your brain starts receiving this noisy, glitchy neural feedback. And because the signal is delayed, your muscles fire just a millisecond too late to protect the joint. That tiny delay leads directly to that clumsy, sudden sensation of your knee buckling or your back giving out.
Now, what's really interesting about this matrix here is how it maps out the multi-systemic nature of instability. Pathological causes like ligament injuries, muscle inhibition from pain, and impaired proprioception, they all feed into a compromised kinetic chain. And here's the clinical reality check. Your kinetic chain spans from your foot all the way up to your lumbar spine. So dysfunction in your lower extremities, like, say, a bad ankle you sprained years ago, recursively increases your susceptibility to low back injuries today. Everything is connected.
Moving right along to Section 1, the anatomy lesson, and what true core strength really means.
Notice the deep integrated stabilization required to hold a proper plank. True core stability isn't just about your visible six-pack abdominal muscles. The absolute most critical players are actually the deep muscles you can't see. The transversus abdominis, the lumbar multifidus, and the quadratus lumborum. Think of your spine and pelvis as a giant radio tower, and these core muscles are the thick guy wires anchoring it safely to the ground. If one wire goes slack and another is pulling way too tight, the whole tower bends and eventually breaks. True stability requires every single one of these muscles pulling in perfect harmony.
And this brings us to a major paradigm shift. We have to completely dismantle the myth of the sit-up. For decades, we've been told that to get a strong core, we need to do hundreds of crunches and twisting stretches. But clinically speaking, the core is naturally rigid and designed to minimize motion, not create it. Dynamic flexion, like doing a crunch, does not actually stiffen the core. In fact, people with severe back pain often already have very strong backs, but they completely lack the isometric stiffness required to protect their spine from buckling. Your core's actual primary job is to act as a shock absorber.
All right, on to Section 2. The prescription, specifically the McGill Big 3.
So, if sit-ups are out, what exactly is the prescription? Enter Dr. Stuart McGill. He's a world-renowned spine biomechanist, and he developed 3 clinically proven exercises that serve as the ultimate solution for stiffening the spine. It's essentially creating a natural weightlifting belt out of your own muscle. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive difference between bracing and flexing. Bending and folding the spine increases shear force and damage, but isometric bracing? That's the holy grail. Think of a boxer getting ready to take a punch to the stomach. They don't suck their stomach in, and they definitely don't do a crunch. They bear down. They synchronize all their core muscles into an immovable pillar of strength without stopping their breathing. That is an isometric brace.
Let's actually walk through one of these key exercises, the bird dog. You start in a quadruped position, on your hands and knees, maintaining a perfectly neutral spine. The big secret here is extending one leg backward by kicking the heel straight back, absolutely not up toward the ceiling. Kicking up would cause your lower back to overarch. While you do that, simultaneously raise the opposite arm. And here is a fantastic clinical pro tip. Clench that raised hand into a tight fist. Doing that creates a neurological effect called irradiation, and it will significantly crank up the activation of your entire core musculature.
Let's move into Section 3, the rehab protocol. Here is your weekly schedule.
Now that we've got the mechanics down, let's look at the actionable blueprint. This right here is the exact beginner protocol I prescribe to athletes and patients in the clinic to build up their baseline stability. We use a reverse pyramid schedule for the McGill Big 3. That's the modified curl-up, the side plank, and the bird dog. Your reps drop from 6 per side to 4 and then finally 2. But listen, the absolute most important element here is the hold time. Every single rep is an isometric hold for exactly 10 seconds. Why? Because we aren't trying to build maximum explosive power here. We are building muscular endurance. Your spine desperately needs muscles that can stay lightly activated all day long to maintain your posture while you sit, stand, and move around.
Before you jump into this routine, please be aware of these common clinical red flags. Overarching the lower back during the bird dog, that entirely defeats the purpose. Failing to properly brace before you even start moving leaves your spine totally vulnerable. Tucking your chin during the curl-up engages all the wrong neck muscles. And above all else, do not rush the tempo. Choosing speed over precision will completely neutralize the benefits of these isometric holds. Slow, steady, and incredibly rigid. That is the goal.
Which brings us to Section 4, the progression. Let's talk about future-proofing your spine.
Look, once you've mastered the baseline stability, you absolutely cannot just stop there. You've got to scale the protocol up to integrate this new stability into a larger, lifelong fitness journey. To keep getting stronger, you have to apply the principle of progressive overload. Once those static, floor-based exercises become easy, your body's going to stop adapting. A really great standard to use is the 2-for-2 rule. If you can successfully perform 2 more repetitions than your target goal in your final set for 2 consecutive workouts, well, it's time to increase the load or progress to a more difficult variation. Systematically increasing the demands is exactly how we drive long-term adaptation.
So the crucial point is how we bridge the gap from floor exercises to standing performance. First, obviously, reestablish that proprioceptive control and build endurance with the big 3. But then, healthy individuals should be prioritizing heavy, multi-joint free weight exercises. I'm talking about squats and deadlifts. Research shows that training these compound lifts at 80% or more of your 1-rep max naturally stimulates the posterior core way better than any gimmicky stability ball ever could. If your core is braced properly, lifting heavy is literally one of the best things you can do for your spinal stability.
A lot of my patients ask me about supplementing their lifting with yoga or Pilates, and honestly, both are fantastic ways to balance out the muscular imbalances caused by our modern, super sedentary lifestyles. Yoga heavily engages the core while really improving posture and flexibility, which makes your movements so much more fluid. Pilates, on the flip side, is uniquely designed to isolate and strengthen those deep core muscles we've been talking about. Both are highly complementary tools that you can absolutely add alongside your McGill Big 3 routine.
And finally, Section 5, the discharge. Let's cover your next steps.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our clinical consultation for today. Let's quickly wrap up with our final discharge instructions and the primary takeaways you need to remember. First, a vital medical disclaimer. The information in this explainer is strictly for educational purposes. The McGill Big 3 are incredibly effective for sure, but they are not some magical one-size-fits-all cure. You absolutely must always consult a licensed medical practitioner or a certified physical therapist to properly diagnose the root cause of your back pain and get personalized advice. If you found this biomechanical deep dive helpful today, please hit that like button, share this with a friend whose back is always giving out, and definitely subscribe to the channel for more evidence-based physical therapy explainers.
I'm going to leave you with this final thought. For years, the fitness industry has sold us this illusion of strength through six-pack abs and hundreds of crunches. But as you've seen today, true stability is invisible. It's isometric, and it's entirely foundational to everything you do. So I have to ask you, will you continue building a core that merely looks strong, or are you finally ready to put in the deliberate work to build a core that actually is strong? The choice is entirely yours. Keep moving, keep learning, and I will see you in the next explainer.